Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about multi-tiered system of supports and informal assessments, or MTSS. What is an informal assessment anyways? We've been talking about diagnostic assessments, we've talked about formal assessments that are norm referenced, but informal assessments are actually a lot more enjoyable, I think, than some of these other types of assessment. The first type is observations, and this would be just an informal consideration of student performance in the school setting. Next, we might do a record review where we take a summary of past findings from previous years or a previous semester. We can use checklists and rating scales. These are often used when we're talking about behavior of children or things like what may be going on in the classroom. And finally, we can do progress monitoring of academic skills or of an academic skill. This would be data that we collect that we can make a graph of and give a summary of results. We're going to go a little more in depth here on each of these different areas. So the components of quality observations. A high quality observation is going to include a detailed explanation of the setting along with the student's position in the room. So if you have a student, let's say we're going in because they're getting out of their seat a lot, or they're talking to their neighbor too much, or something like that in the classroom, they're not getting their work done, and they're sitting at the back of the classroom and in a back corner. That's going to be important information as you speak to the team about what might be best for positioning of that student. Another issue might be if they have low vision, that they may or may not be able to see the teacher or the things going on in the front of the classroom. Same thing if they have a hearing loss, that they will need to be in a place that's near the front, that they can hear their teacher, but also in a place that they can turn around and see who's speaking. So important to put that information in our observations. Next, you want to make sure that you add in the school subject that you're observing. So if you're observing in their reading group, you want to put that down. If you're observing them in a full classroom setting, then put that. You might be in their PE class because there's been an issue with behavior in PE. Make sure you notate all of those things. That will be important. The other thing is that you should go and observe the subjects or the settings that are the areas of concern that the teachers have for this student. Next, we want to do details about the lesson. We want to take down what they were studying and talking about, what the lesson was about, how the student responded to that lesson. Were they attentive? Did they raise their hands? Did they answer questions? Were they working with the manipulatives? And so on and so forth. That will be really important as you go back to look at this and you go to make your report in your IEP later on. A child's behavior during independent work may be an important variable or important factor. When you're thinking about kids who do not finish their work in a good amount of time, then it's important for us to observe them during that independent work time. We want to see what their behavior is toward and compared to their peers. So not only how they treat others in the classroom, but how are they compared to others? You may watch this student for a couple of minutes and then turn and see what some of their peers are doing, especially like, again, during independent work or during a time that the teacher is doing some direct instruction. How does this student compare with their typically developing peers? Finally, responsiveness to teacher questions and anything else that might have been written into the referral. So any other concern that might have been written into the referral, if they've seen aggression, or if the student works very slowly, or if they get their work done so quickly that they don't really do it very well, all of those things, you want to be looking for those things in your observation. Observation checklists can be found on Teachers Pay Teachers. You might find some on the internet. You just want to be sure that everything that is important for the referral to MTSS or the referral to special education, all of those things that were written in there that were concerns, that those are the things that are being observed. I have also added an observation form, kind of an intake form almost, from a school in Mississippi, a school district in Mississippi, because it had a lot of different variables that it has you look at for the student. And I thought a lot of those things would be really helpful as you come up with your own checklist and your own way of doing observations. The next part is the record review. A review of records can include information from all kinds of sources, specifically sources that have already laid a foundation for the child's background. So it could be a former IFSP, Individualized Family Service Plan. That would be for a child that's coming into preschool from early intervention. It could be a previous IEP or a 504. Both would have information on the disability that the student has, and also on previous accommodations and or goals that the student had to help them through school. You may have access to prior standardized test results like the CMAS or other testing that might have been done in another state or in another school district that is from where another school district the student is coming from. So that would be helpful in just seeing where they were at the time. You can look at classroom grades. You can look at transcripts from previous schools. We want to find health information. Past health information can be super important when we're thinking about when was this student diagnosed with something like autism, or how do we know the severity of a hearing loss, or what kind, did the child have a traumatic brain injury, and those types of things. Finally, you might want to see previous teacher narratives that have been included in their information. Next would be checklists or rating scales. Oftentimes we'll see these we'll get these from the school psychologist when it comes to behavioral interventions and writing a behavioral intervention plan. So they can be used to observe specific skills or behaviors. They can be filled out by teachers, specialists, by the students themselves, by parents, by you as a special education teacher. They can be filled out by a variety of people. You want to make sure that the people that are working with the student the most get a hold of the checklist and are able to answer the questions. Some of these checklists are pre-made, while others are made by you, the teacher, to address a specific situation. Checklists are quick and easy to use. The questions need to be clear and relevant to the needs of the student based on the referral information once again. So when you use a checklist, it's not ever one size fits all. There are some that are more formal that may cover something specific like self-advocacy skills for your student. And then there are some that are not as formal, and you're going to make it up yourself so that you can send it out to maybe all 7 teachers that a middle school student or high school student has, so that you can get that kind of information. And you want to make it easy for those teachers just to go down a checklist and answer the questions so that they don't have to take too much time out of their schedule. Next would be progress monitoring of an academic skill. Progress monitoring measures are wonderful and informal. They help us to not only see where the child is today, but to look back and see where they've been. It should be done often, weekly or biweekly. It's a formative assessment. So again, if we do something with our progress monitoring and we give a test on, like, let's say math facts, then, and we see that a student isn't understanding it, they score very low, then we can adjust the way we work with that student so that they get more practice in their math facts, and hopefully the next time they're tested, they'll achieve better. Schools use programs like AimsWeb and Dibbles and others to monitor progress across the student body. And these can help with different areas such as reading and fluency with their reading, and math and writing. So anyways, they can be very helpful, and different school districts use different ones. Teachers can also do this in the classroom when they do weekly sight word tests, math facts tests, daily exit tickets, or keep behavior charts. So these are other progress monitoring measures that can help guide instruction, that can help guide the way we address behaviors in the classroom, and that can give us some ideas about the things that our students are not really understanding even after we've walked them through it. So finally, progress monitoring data can yield a graphic representation of a student's progress. So as we get the different scores each week, we want to graph that and show a trend of either improvement or a trend that is staying stagnant, or a trend that is not improving and is actually getting worse. And that's going to inform how we handle instruction. So all of these progress monitoring measures are great to help us understand where the student is at and where we need to go. Finally, we can use this information and this data from our progress monitoring when we go to write our present levels and our in our IEP.